It is not my job as chairman of the convention to tell the delegates how to run their convention. So when you run for delegate in whatever state you come from, you run on the terms and the conditions that your state binds or does not bind those delegates. That's a contract. You ran knowing those things. So that's the point I would make for people who ran for delegate. They ran knowing the rules of the road when they did so.
House Speaker Paul Ryan yesterday during a CNN town hall explaining that GOP delegates and really never Trump delegates knew what they were getting into and have no reason not to remain bound or try to change the rules of the upcoming Republican National Convention. The RNC reportedly held a closed-door meeting about the main legal argument to stop the Never Trump movement, and reports say the RNC General Counsel was met with great applause after making the legal case to stop the Never Trumpers. So, what is next? We've got just the guy to ask. Skyping in from Cleveland, Newsmax chief political columnist and White House correspondent John Gizzi. As always, John, we appreciate your time. And what did you hear? What is the mood there about keeping the delegates bound as per their state delegations?
I spent almost an entire day on this issue, JD, talking to different sides. Just was in touch with Kendall Unruh from Colorado, who is the midwife of what she calls the conscience clause. In other words, if a majority of delegates in the convention next week vote to change the rules, delegates can vote their conscience, which means they can vote for whomever they want instead of someone they were committed to by primary or party rules. I can say for the most part, when I talk to members of the Republican National Committee or the Rules Committee of the convention, which holds a closed-door meeting tomorrow morning, they say it's going nowhere. The 112 members of the Rules Committee will vote on the rules for the convention. If 1/4 of the committee, 28 members, vote for a minority report, then debate continues on the convention floor and there's a vote. Kendall Unruh assured me earlier she has the 28 votes on the committee to send a minority report to the floor.
But there's a reason a minority report is called a minority report. You get it to the floor. Those guys ostensibly are still in the minority, and most rank and file delegates opt for the majority, correct?
Exactly. And I spoke to Dave Norcross, who is the counsel to the Rules Committee, and he said this is the equivalent of giving a losing team a fifth quarter in order to catch up. Your old colleague Robin Hayes of North Carolina, now the National Committee man, said it's like saying, now I want to drive on the left side of the road, even though my state instructed me to drive on the right.
Yeah, you know why Robin used that? You know why he used that analogy? It's because the Charlotte Motor Speedway is just a couple of miles from his home in Concord, North Carolina, but still pretty good. Let's get back on and talk about who's going to join Trump on the metaphorical campaign bus, because we understand now that Mr. Trump will make it official Friday morning. He will name his vice presidential selection. And why don't we go to the phones at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629, ironically, to the site of the 2012 Democrat convention, Charlotte. That's where Ed is on the phone. Hi, Ed.
How you doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Well, I got it cut off. You're talking, but I got the phone. There, I got it.
You're fine. Go right ahead. Don't
Okay.
listen to the TV. There's a delay there. Now, what's the point you want to make?
Well, what I want to say is I hope that Gingrich gets it. Not that I'm against Pence, but I know Gingrich can pull the wool over their eyes and they not see what's going on. And he's enough speaker that he's able to bring everything through Congress that he did. So I hope that he will get it. I got nothing against Pence, but
Well, I hear you, and I got to tell you, I'm in the same boat, Ed. Let me turn to John Gizzi. John, you will recall those halcyon days of now 2 decades ago When I was elected to the House, the first Republican majority in 40 years, there was Newt, our leader, our speaker, the contract with America. He knows how to get things done. And yet Nancy Brinker was on the program earlier saying, wait a minute, take a look at the age. Demographically, she was saying Pence for vice president, Newt for chief of staff. Your take on that notion?
It certainly would be an impressive lineup. Pence is young, he has experience as a legislator and an executive, and JD has a background in your area. He was a radio announcer and talk show host for many years. He would be a most unique candidate who would complement the older outsider Donald Trump. Newt, of course, could handle White House chief of staff in his sleep. He knows the issues, he knows how to deal with Congress, and he knows the president quite well, apparently. But remember one thing, Donald Trump's stock in trade as host of The Apprentice was always a surprise in the end. Many people thought in Indiana he'd name Pence. If he doesn't name him Friday, forget it. And now the name of Governor Christie has reemerged, and his old sparring partner and nemesis, Governor John Kasich of Ohio.
Well,
this is talk heard in Cleveland today.
Yeah, Brother Kasich, that really takes a pre-convention conversion, but we'll see about that. Back to the phones at 1-877-Newsmax, up to Ramsey, Minnesota, where Jan is on the line. Hi, Jan.
Hello. I was hoping to get in on your last one about the veterans, but I will speak about Trump's vice president.
Go right ahead. What's your thought on that, Jan?
I don't think that he has any one of his four that he's considering that will give him any kind of a front. Christie is too argumentative, I guess, is what I would say, that he is going to repel a lot of the people.
So bottom line is you just don't like any of the quartet still being mentioned. Is there anybody out there you would suggest to him, Jan?
Well, the one thing that I would suggest is that he get a veteran, somebody who has been put in the years with the military, and he would get every veteran in the country to vote for him.
Well, let's see. As you're mentioning that, Jan, I think about someone from the swing state of Florida who happens to be an Army veteran, who happens to be African-American, Alan West. Maybe that's a guy. Let me turn to John Gizzi again on this, because you were just saying earlier, Donald Trump knows how to pull a surprise. Will you be surprised if he pulls that surprise on Friday?
I would be surprised if he pulled anyone who isn't among the big four we've been talking about: Newt Gingrich, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, or John Kasich. And I find it poignant that today the new British Prime Minister, Theresa May, named as her foreign secretary someone written off as stabbed in the back and dead, Boris Johnson. If she could pull a surprise like that, think what Trump could do.
All right, let's go out to Sandy, Utah for Raymond. Hi, Raymond.
Yes, I'm hoping, and if I had any persuasion, I would like to see Dr. Ben Carson as a vice presidential pick. I think he could complement Trump in many ways, maybe too numerous to talk about right now. He's a smart individual that knows the issues, and he's an outsider, and I think two outsiders is good for the country. We don't need more establishment.
Yeah, you know, everybody loves Dr. Carson. John Gizzi, in fact, it was almost like, remember when Dick Cheney was in charge of the vice presidential search process for George W. Bush in 2000, Cheney ended up being the guy. Quick note on Ben Carson, 20 seconds, John.
One of the things about Donald Trump, he's only the second person in history to be nominated for president who never held elective or appointive office. Usually, when an outsider is chosen, they will choose a political veteran to round out the ticket. Someone who's been elected. The last person like Trump picked Senator McNary of Oregon, and of course George
We will keep our eye on that, John Gizzi. We thank you for your report tonight from Cleveland. Now a note, I'll be away from this desk tomorrow night. Miranda Kahn will be here. I'll be back Friday, and I'll see you then.